What's up, heathens? How ya doing? Tonight we have I think he's a pastor. I've covered him before. I've covered one of his videos before, and it did fairly well then, and I thought that this guy was just kind of a one-off, oh, I'm gonna post up this dumb fucking video and everything like that, but apparently he still puts up videos. So today we're gonna be checking in with Tom, the fuck is his name? Tom Brown. Tom Brown knows, is gonna be telling us about how atheism is dumb. Right? And trust me, he has the dumbest reasons why he thinks atheism is dumb. So it's kind of odd how he would make a video like this being hypocritical and shit. But anyways, so I hope you guys have your butt holders a holding, because tonight it's gonna be lit. That's shit that I've never said before. So we got Tom Brown here, having a code brown right now, and we're going to see why he thinks that atheism is dumb. I guarantee you these will not actually be reasons why atheism is dumb.
Atheism is the dumbest philosophy to ever face humanity.
All right, I got to stop you right here. I'm going to let you finish, but I got to stop you because atheism isn't so much a philosophy. Atheism is an answer to one question, and that's, do you believe in a God? No. I don't believe in a God. So therefore, I consider myself atheist. Now, this isn't carte blanche to go around and tell people, oh, you're really an atheist if you don't believe in God, because everybody applies their labels differently. Me, I take the agnostic atheist label to be a lot more specific as to what I do and do not believe or know. I don't believe in a God, so therefore I classify myself as an atheist. The important fact to get out of that, though, is that it's not a philosophy. It's just a single answer to a question. I don't see how that can be a philosophy. We're going to allow Code Brown here to continue.
Why is it dumb? Why is it stupid? Well, number one, it makes no common sense. We all know that the universe had an origin. There was a time when there was nothing. And we all know it's not possible for nothing to create something.
All right. I should really make bingo cards, because this would be like an X for the nothing from something kind of column, or box. So basically, he doesn't understand what a scientific nothing is, because scientific nothing is still something. We have found that when we remove everything from a section of space, you remove all radiation, you remove everything from it, and it still has a little bit of energy fluctuating within it. Therefore, absolutely nothing is not technically possible. And so when he talks about how nothing can't come from, or something can't come from nothing, he doesn't really know what he's talking about when he says nothing. No scientific theory out there says that nothing produces anything, right? That nothing, the scientific nothing that exists, can still produce something. Common sense actually clued us into the idea that God is the one that controls weather and lightning and the oceans and earthquakes and just every single thing out there. At one point in time, common sense pointed towards God. I guess fuck me for thinking that shit is just naturally happening. First off, he's wrong, because this is not about atheism. Atheism is a single answer to a single question. That's whether or not God exists. Now, whatever that entails after that is not directly concerning atheism. So one, he's not talking about atheism. Two, he's completely wrong about what the scientific theories about the beginning of the universe is.
So where did the first elements of the universe come into existence? Well, in order for that to happen, you have to have someone outside the universe make it.
I'm sorry, do we need somebody outside of the universe for shit to be created within stars now? Like, I really think that it's going over his head in order to point out that nothing was able to form for 300,000 years after the inflation of the universe, because the universe was so hot, not even light could travel through it. It would totally blow his mind to think that this entire universe was too hot and dense for even light to travel through it, let alone the whole idea that heavier elements are created in the guts of stars, and when these stars explode, they spread out their guts all over the universe, and it creates more and more elements. Do we need God in the hearts of stars to fuse two atoms together? Is God in the sun when he fuses two hydrogen atoms together and he produces light and it in fact produces energy? Like, is God needed at the heart of our sun? Is God ever needed for anything that naturally occurs? To sit there and be like, well, where did the first elements come from? It's like, well, the first elements that developed were hydrogen, helium, and I believe it was lithium. Yes, I was was thinking normally lithium product is prescribed for like antidepressants and stuff, but lithium, those were the first ones to form, and they formed when atoms started to form. And then once those collected into these stars, and the stars started fusing hydrogen and hydrogen atoms into helium, and the helium and all this other stuff, like once they started actually forming in there, it produced these larger and larger elements. We don't need God to explain that. That just happens naturally.
That's common sense. But the second reason why atheism is dumb and stupid and foolish is that it's bankrupt morally. Even atheists admit that there is a moral universe.
All right, who had morality on their particular bingo card? Anybody got a bingo yet? No, we've only had 2 things, so there's no way anybody can have a bingo. But in any case, so atheism makes no moral claims. There's no morality imposed by atheism. Now, I get why he's a little confused by this, because his particular religion, and in fact, most religions out there now, actually do impose some kind of moral code on its adherents. But the fact is that atheism by itself, just like theism by itself, does not inherently have any kind of moral code to it. It's a lot like complaining about a fish being unable to fly. You know, well, with the exception of those one fish that can fly. Well, they don't necessarily like fly, but there's a fish, I can't remember what the fish is called, but the fish it kind of glides in the air when it jumps out. Anyways, it's a lot like saying, why the fuck can't a whale walk? You're complaining about something that the thing is not even supposed to do. Atheism is not supposed to be have some kind of moral guideline attached to it. So for you to say that it's morally bankrupt, it's just fucking hilarious, because it shows how much you don't know about atheism or this subject in general.
That there's a sense of what's right and wrong. So atheists have to try to grapple with, where do we get our sense of ethics and morals? So in the end, without God, then atheists begin to change those moral fabrics. And before you know it, atheists, they adopt a morality based on natural evolution.
Okay. Before we get into this pile of shit, first of all, with the fact that atheism doesn't prescribe morality, of course, we're going to be looking to ourselves for our morality. And that it perfectly explains why we're wrong some of the times. Like, morally, we can and have been wrong on many occasions. And I doubt that anybody here would claim to be a perfectly moral person. I would think that most people would agree that they try to be the best person that they can be. But as far as morality goes, I find it quite hilarious how you say that atheists end up just pulling shit out of their asses, right? When in fact it's religious people that also just pull shit out of their ass. Of course we pull shit out of our ass. We create morality just like we create shit. Without some kind of living organism, we wouldn't have shit or morality. I think I just compared morality to shit. Oh yeah, he said that our morality is based on natural evolution. I kind of wonder where in the fuck he's going with this. My guess is that he's probably going to the whole evolutionary morality, taking the literal idea of evolution and trying to twist it into some kind of moral code.
That only the strong survive. Only the strong rule the weak. Only the smart conquer. So what happens is, in the end...
Fucking knew it. I knew it. I called it, honey. Called it. Well, he says that apparently atheists get their moral intuition from evolution, which has the survival of the fittest, and the survival of the strongest. Might makes right, basically, is what he's putting out here. But in fact, that's not how survival of the fittest works. Survival of the fittest is about how well an organism is adapted to its environment. That's how it's the fittest. Now, that could be which organism is strongest. It could be which organism is the biggest douchebag. That could be it. But it's about who is best suited for the environment that they're in. They will survive. Now, it's kind of interesting how you talk about this like, oh, people are just making this shit up, that, they don't have any kind of grounding really beyond themselves. Again, I would like to point out how religious people do this as well. Religious people, just like Tom Brown here, they also make up their own morality. If you say that you don't adhere to your own sense of morality and that you only follow the word of God because that's what God says, then that just shows that you're either a sociopath or a psychopath. What that ultimately entails is that you cannot tell right and wrong by yourself. You cannot look at a man kicking a dog and say that's wrong because you need God to tell you that it's wrong. You think you need God to write that shit on your heart. I don't think that I need God to write that shit on my heart. If I see an asshole kicking a dog, I'm just going to go up and fucking drop kick his ass. I don't need to consider God when I'm making that decision. I know that's wrong because I make my own moral decisions. I really don't think that you want to sit there and act like you don't make your own moral decisions. Also, if you've been keeping up with the Daily Bible Podcast that posts up every Tuesdays, you know that God would definitely kick a dog.
Unborn babies that are weak and unprotected. Slaves that could not fight for themselves. Minorities that could not defend themselves. It's too bad because
Oh, I'm sorry. My mind is getting fucked right now because he just said that he mentioned minorities and the weak and everything like that. Like, have you not looked at the history of fucking Christianity? Because I'm fairly certain Christianity was the religion of the African slave trade. I'm not saying that they're primarily responsible for the African slave trade, but I just want to say that slaves had their own particular version of the Bible that did not include Moses freeing the slaves and God talking about how all people should be freed and everything like that. I mean, you can't just sit there and totally neglect how shitty your religion in particular has been to the minorities. Jesus fucking Christ. We've been having this discussion on Twitter a lot here recently about what it means to be a person and when in the womb do you actually become a person. And a lot of people like to twist, things that I say and things that other people say around. But I think that the moment of personhood kind of becomes relevant when the baby can survive outside of the womb. I think that is the point where fetus becomes sort of person. Only in the extreme cases are later term abortions really ever done. I'm not saying that unequivocally. I'm just saying that for the most part, like 95 to 99% of these abortions, these later term abortions, are only done in emergency situations. Most abortions are done prior to the 12th week when the fetus is just not a person. Is it a human fetus? Yes, of course it's a human fetus. It's not a person though. It's still a fetus. It can't survive outside the womb. I feel like most of these people have this idea of like partial birth abortions or like a woman that's full term and like you can see the baby kicking on the stomach walls and everything like that and or the abdomen walls and like apparently doctors are just killing those babies and it's fucking insane. But all right, well, let's continue.
In atheism, in the end, it's only the strong that should survive. So everyone else who's weak and sickly should all die and go by themselves, And so we have atheism that is weak morally. And the few times that a country decided to implement atheism as its official philosophy, it all turned into communism. Look at the Soviet Union and look at China. Communism is the natural outgrowth of atheism.
Again, citation fucking needed. I don't know how communism is the natural outgrowth of atheism. First off, what you described there are state atheism. State atheism is not related to the atheism that he's talking about. If you really wanted to pin a specific fallacy to this would be called the equivocation fallacy because he's equivocating state atheism with atheism, right? State atheism sought to replace religion with the state so that people had a religious adherence to the state. I agree that state atheism is a bad idea. I think that secularism is the best form or is the best way for a government to operate, where there's a clear separation of church and state. I really don't think that atheism, theism, any of that should really come into account when making laws other than to restrict people from being fucking shitty. One, I don't know how communism grows out of atheism. I mean, you can be communist and Christian. I really don't. I don't understand how he would come to the conclusion that only atheism leads to communism. Number two, state atheism is not atheism, is not equal to atheism.
Because with atheism, there is no freedom. Because to an atheist, they're the smart ones and they should rule the dumb ones.
I do not think that, and I honestly don't know anybody that does. Now, I'm not saying that there's no atheists out there that doesn't think that highly of atheists, but I don't automatically consider somebody dumb just because they're religious. Religion has been normalized, so it's perfectly normal to believe in those things. And so I don't think that's a reflection on anybody's IQ necessarily. I most certainly don't think that atheists, the smart ones, need to rule over the dumb ones. That's just fucking ridiculous.
So there's an elitist mentality that forms within atheism. It's an arrogant philosophy. It's a philosophy where people don't have freedom because people are too stupid to exercise that freedom.
What? What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, if anybody, atheists believe in more freedom than religious people, at least religious people of this caliber. Not all religious people, obviously. I feel like religion inherently imposes restrictions on freedom. And I mean, of course, he would see that as a good thing. And I'm not saying that restrictions on freedom is a bad thing. What I'm saying is that as far as religion goes, they go beyond the scope of reasonable in order to restrict things, you know, like sex before marriage. That's one thing that's restricted by his religion. And he wants to say that we're like somehow restricting freedom. Like, we don't have that concept necessarily in atheism. I mean, there are personal opinions, but there's nothing in atheism that says, hey, don't fuck your girlfriend or anybody else before you get married, motherfucker. You will burn in hell. That is a religious position. I mean, you would think that he would be against theocracies, but my guess is that he would definitely welcome a Christian theocracy, because that's the thing that he agrees with. He probably thinks that everybody should live that way.
And to an atheist, they must tell the society how they must live and what they must believe in.
I'm sorry, motherfucker. Are you even listening to yourself? You are describing the Christian population to the T. Like, specifically the Christian right, the Christian conservative groups and everything like that. Now, not all Christians obviously think that they should be telling other people how to live their lives. Just think about it. He's talking about himself here, and he's completely unaware of it. Casey said she's not listening to him.
And so in atheism, when it is practiced, we have seen terrible outcomes. I'm here to tell you the truth.
I like, is anybody else screaming the Crusades at this point, or the Protestant Catholic wars and excursions and everything like that, where they were killing each other? Are we forgetting about how religious people have persecuted other people of other faiths forever? I feel like he's still complaining and bitching about his own religion here.
If you're an atheist, you have adopted one of the dumbest and foolish philosophies known to the human race. And maybe that's why there's only 4% that even claim that to be atheists.
Well, no, that's not why. The reason why is because people are either scared to come out and say that they don't believe, or the fact is that religion is normalized in our society. And so because it's normalized, when people fall from the faith or leave the faith, they're regularly ostracized. And so other people see that and they don't want that to happen to them. So they stay in the faith. The main factor here is that religion's normalized, especially Christianity and Islam. They're normalized. To be those things is seen as normal. And just because we have a small population doesn't mean that we're wrong. And doesn't mean that you shouldn't adopt it, like atheism at all, which you don't really adopt it. You just kind of, you just are unconvinced of a God existing. You kind of become that way. So,
because as the Bible says, a fool has said in his heart, there is no God. It is foolish to embrace atheism.
I have to say, that particular quote is got to be the centerpiece for the bingo card that I'm going to make, because it's like Psalm 14:1. Fucking fool has said in his heart there is no God. Because that always gets brought up whenever we're talking about atheism, whether or not it's true or legit or anything like that. So it's just really kind of ridiculous to even bring that up, because obviously whatever your religious book says is not going to convince us that we're wrong. What's going to convince us that we're wrong is actual evidence, not just some asshole writing some shit down in a book a long time ago. I get that is something that has kind of been woven into your religion, and therefore has been indoctrinated to you to think as sort of like a safety mechanism to keep people within the in the faith. But that's not going to convince anybody else out there. You're basically making this particular video. I feel like this entire video here is made for religious people to feel secure in not being an atheist and for remaining religious. That is the audience that's targeted by this video. All right, heathens, well, that's going to be it for the video tonight. So before you leave out of here, smash that like button. It would really help me out. But anyways, guys, I'm going to head on out of here. Y'all have a lovely night, lovely weekend. And as always, don't forget to stand up and use your voice. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye, heathens.